Card Lady here. Thanks so much for tuning in to my first basics video. I'm so excited to get these videos out to y'all. I have been working with this discipline for almost 10 years now, maybe just over 10 years since I first found out about it, and the wealth of information that it has brought into my life is just abundant, and it has allowed me to really change my life and change others' lives. And it has thus become my goal to spread this information as far and wide as I possibly can to as many individuals, as many hearts, as many souls, as many brilliant minds as I possibly can. Because from doing this work for the last 10 years, I have come to believe wholeheartedly that self-work is the most important work that we can do. Jesus said, "Know thyself." And whether or not you believe in Jesus, you cannot deny that he was absolutely instrumental and had wonderful things to say. And to know thyself, to understand thyself, to have compassion for thyself and love thyself for who you are, that, it's a hard thing to do. It's not easy. None of us are just like born loving every single piece of ourselves. We just don't. We all have insecurities. We all have fears. We all have anger. We all have worry. And so the cards can help us to understand these strengths and these weaknesses within ourselves that we've been dealing with throughout our entire life. Never when I'm telling you about the cards am I ever going to tell you anything that you don't already know about yourself. All of it is inside of you somewhere. So this first video is going to be talking a little bit about where the cards come from, so that as you start to learn about the cards through more of these basic videos, and if you learn about your cards, your friends' cards, your family's cards, you'll realize that they have a foundational basis that isn't just mumbo jumbo that I created or that somebody pulled out of somewhere. These are actually thousands of years old. So I believe that the cards actually first came from Atlantis. And I know that might seem very outlandish to many of you, and if so, that is totally okay. It's just that they're thousands and thousands of years old. I definitely encourage you to do some research on Atlantis if you'd like, and we can talk about it more sometime too. But what you should know, regardless of whether or not you believe that about Atlantis, is that so many cultures have claimed the creation of the hearts and clubs and diamonds and spades and of the playing cards in general. The Chinese claimed that they came from China. The Egyptians claimed that they came from Egypt. The Persians claimed that they came from Persia. And these are just a few of the cultures that have claimed the origination of the playing cards. Now, we live right now in a completely globalized world, right? We have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have email. You can send information from China to Egypt instantaneously, no biggie. But thousands of years ago, when playing cards came about, that was not the case. You couldn't just give people information immediately. It took a long time. So generally, what historians and people who study culture believe about anything that is claimed to have come from multiple different cultures and different parts of the world, it's kind of commonly agreed that if that happens, then usually whatever the subject matter is probably came from a culture before any of those. And I don't know if you guys know this, but humans have been on this earth for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Okay? So even though our modern times since Christ in these 2,000 years, we've had science, we've had the Industrial Revolution, we've had the Agricultural Revolution, but humans existed for such a long time before the modern era. And unfortunately, in 48 BC, Julius Caesar, still want to punch the guy in the face for this, wish I could go back in time and do so. In 48 BC, the Library of Alexandria, Egypt, burnt down. If you don't know about this situation, about that time in the world, it is considered one of the biggest tragedies to have ever happened, because this wealth of information, the Library of Alexandria in Egypt being the biggest library in the world at that point in time, all of the information in there, which was believed to be occult, esoteric, energetic, experiential work that had been done by humans for thousands of years before the modern time, was compiled in this library, and then it was burnt to the ground during a war. It's fine. But we'll never know where a lot of different things come from. We're never going to probably know where the cards came from. It might have been in that library. It may have not. I bet there was some stuff about it. Anyway, that being said, there are many things that we believe in that we can't see, right? A lot of us believe in God and know that God is there, that source is there for us, whether or not that can be proved. You know, karma is real whether or not you want to believe in it, whether or not anybody can prove it, right? So just because something can't be scientifically proven doesn't mean that it isn't energetically there. And so in dealing with the cards, I urge you to have an open mind and an open heart in learning about these things. Again, I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know when it comes to your specific cards. But what you should know about the discipline in general is that it is thousands of years old, okay? These have been around for a really long time. The hearts, clubs, diamonds, and spades, these symbols have been around for thousands of years. And the French, the Italians, some other European groups, cultures have tried to change the marks of the suits, have tried to change hearts into something else, have tried to change spades into swords, etc. And you might recognize some of those from the tarot. Now, the tarot I wanted to get into as well because the tarot actually came from the deck of cards. And I hope none of you that study tarot are mad at me for saying that, because believe me, it is true, and here's why. During the time of the Crusades, when people were getting literally killed for not being Christian, you definitely couldn't be a divinator. You definitely could not be a fortune teller. Any of that kind of stuff, you were literally killed, and probably killed where everybody could see so that you were made an example of, right? So during this time, the people who were fortune tellers or divinators, and that was how they made their living probably, and that was what they did with their life, well, rather than getting killed for doing so, of course they pretended to be Christians so they didn't get killed, but they did ask their friends who made playing cards, which were huge at the time, and everybody's playing cards all over the place in the streets and the bars. They said, hey, friends who make the cards, can you make me some cards? And that is where tarot cards came from. They were made to look just like playing cards so that you could actually do divination in the streets, in the bars, do it undercover so that the people who would kill you for doing it wouldn't notice. So tarot actually did come from the cards during the time of the Crusades. And there is a lot of synonymity between each of the suits of tarot and each of the suits of the cards. Each of the suits in both of the disciplines represent seasonality and different archetypes, different realms of existence. But that is a topic for another time. For now, what I really wanted to focus on is the fact that these cards span generations. They have been passed down for thousands of years from generation to generation. And of course, our generation knows them as playing cards, right? We play Go Fish with them. We play poker with them. Casinos are based around them, but we don't know anything more about the esoteric understanding of them. When I start talking to people about this, they are mind blown that our regular cards are to be used as some form of esoteric knowledge. People only know tarot cards to be used in that way, and that is why I am here to change that, to teach you that there is so much more behind each of these cards than you would possibly know. And I wanted to tell you about the reason why I believe they are only used as playing cards now instead of something esoteric and more meaningful. So I'm going to read you a verse from the Bible. Again, whether or not you are religious, it doesn't really matter. Revelations is like the apocalyptic book of the Bible, right? Revelation says, "And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write. But I heard a voice from heaven, saying unto me, Seal up those things uttered by the 7 thunders, and write them not. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand, and I devoured it. And to my taste it was sweet as honey, but as soon as I had devoured it, it became bitter unto my inside. And the angel said unto me, You must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings." The Bible says you must seal up the little book of 7 thunders, and then in the future it must be prophesied again before peoples and nations and tongues and kings. I believe that the cards have been hidden for a really long time, and now is just the time for them to start coming out for us all to understand. This is the Age of Aquarius. This is the beginning of a new age of consciousness, and it is so important for any of us that are living in this time to start to embody that light, that love. That is probably why we are here incarnated right now, to be people that are on this precipice of this complete transformation in consciousness for humans. So I believe that the cards are a huge part of that. That is why I'm doing this right now. That is why it's my goal to spread this to as many people as I possibly can. And it was written. Long ago it was written, you know, and I just want you to know that regardless of your religious beliefs, this does not go against Christianity. If anything, it was written about in the Bible, and it is just time for it to now become unleashed. This book that I just read, that quote from the Bible from, the Mystic Test book, is actually the first book that ever was written about the cards. And it was written or at least published in 1894, but I believe it was written for like the decade prior. It took a long, long time. This is an incredible book with such a wealth of knowledge, but it is really advanced, and part of why I want to do these YouTube videos is to make this information more accessible to people less advanced, because so many of the books written on this discipline are so thorough, so a little hard to understand, and so I just want to do a basics compilation so that we can start to understand some of the basics through just watching, just listening, without having to buy our own books and get into this depth of knowledge. But really what I wanted to say is that this book was written in 1894, and since then, in the last 130 years almost, the number of books written on this discipline is so few. That is why I'm writing a book on it now. Two of my favorite authors about the books about the cards are Robert Lee Camp and Sharon Jeffers. Both of them I have to thank for so much, having taught me so many things about the cards. Every year over the last 10 years I've learned more and more and more and more, and it is just incredible. So of course I need to share that. But again, the number of books that are written on this topic are so few. The time is fast approaching for this information to become globalized, and I'm really hoping to be a part of that process. The Age of Aquarius is so important for us to get on board with this revolution in consciousness, and so I hope you guys will come with me on this journey of learning about the cards. I really hope that you will. And so my next basics videos will be about the suits themselves, about the numbers and the faces of the cards, and then about the laws of the discipline in general that I've learned so far after having worked with the cards for so many years. So I really hope you enjoyed this first video. Please feel free to comment, give me any questions. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much again, and play on.